Before we start, stop for a second. Look at the coins in your mind. That small metal disc, a number, a face, a symbol of a country. Maybe you don't even use them much anymore. Cards, phones, digital balances, numbers on a screen. But for most of history, money was not pixels. Money was metal. And one of the biggest turning points in the history of money came the moment someone asked a simple question. What if we take this metal, fix its shape, fix its weight, and stamp it with a symbol everyone trusts? Who was that someone? Why did they do it? And how did those first coins change the way power and trade worked for the next 2,500 years? To answer that, we have to go back to a small kingdom you won't find on any modern map: Lydia. Long before coins existed, people were already using silver as money. Not as neat discs, not as shiny round coins, but as lumps and pieces, bits of metal cut from bars, shavings, chopped fragments. If you walked into a market in parts of the ancient Near East, you might see a trader pull out a small leather pouch, not filled with coins, but with raw silver. To pay, he would pull out a fragment, weigh it on a small balance scale, sometimes cut a bit off, and argue about its purity. Every serious deal turned into a small science experiment. Archaeologists have found tiny bronze and stone weights and small balance scales in ancient trading cities. They weren't for jewelry. They were for weighing silver. And here is the problem. Every transaction took time. Is the scale honest? Is the weight correct? Is the silver pure? Has it been mixed with cheaper metal? Imagine this happening over and over in a busy marketplace. Silver was better than barley, but still too slow for a world where trade was growing faster. Merchants needed something they could trust at a glance, something that didn't require a small laboratory and a long argument for every single purchase. The world was almost ready for coins. It just needed the right place and the right kind of metal. On the western edge of what is now Turkey, there was once a small, rich kingdom called Lydia. Its capital was Sardis, a city of stone walls, bustling markets, and a royal palace that looked down over fertile plains. Near Lydia ran a river with a famous name, the Pactolus. Ancient writers said the sands of this river glittered with precious metal. There was even a legend about a cursed king called Midas, who turned everything he touched into gold, and who supposedly washed his curse away in this very river, leaving its sands forever rich. But the metal in the river was not pure gold. It was something stranger, a natural mix of gold and silver called electrum, pale yellow, bright, beautiful, and difficult to measure. Electrum's value was tricky because the mix of gold and silver was not always the same. Two pieces of electrum that weighed the same did not always have the same worth. Merchants knew this, so did kings. And in Lydia, the rulers had a problem to solve. They needed an easy way to pay people. Soldiers, officials, suppliers. They also needed a way to collect wealth and show their power. Somewhere in that royal court, maybe under King Alyattes, maybe perfected under his son Croesus, an idea took shape. What if the king himself took control of this tricky metal? What if he collected electrum, refined and measured it, turned it into small, fixed pieces, and stamped each one with a royal symbol? A lion's head, a mark of the king, so that anyone who saw that mark would know. This piece of metal has a specific weight, a specific value, guaranteed by the king of Lydia. No more weighing raw metal in the middle of the market. No more guessing how much gold and silver was inside each piece. Just one quick question. Is that stamp real? If yes, the deal could be done in seconds. The oldest known coins come from around the late 7th century BCE, and many were found near Sardis, the capital of Lydia. They are made of electrum and often show a lion, a royal symbol, stamped on one side. The first coins on Earth were not invented by a committee of economists. They were forged at the edge of a river in a small kingdom by rulers who understood power and convenience. Now slow down for a moment and look at one of those first coins. Small, irregular, not perfectly round like modern coins. On one side, a lion's head, pressed deep into the metal by a heavy stamp. On the other side, rough punch marks from where the coin was struck. This small piece of metal is doing at least 3 jobs at once. It is a store of value. It condenses wealth into something you can hold in your hand. It is a unit of account. Its weight and purity are fixed, so you can count with it. 2 coins, 5 coins, 10 coins, and it is a symbol of authority. That lion's head is not decoration. It is a message. It says, this coin comes from the king. You can trust it, and you must accept it. A coin is more than metal. It is metal, plus a promise. Metal, plus a story everyone agrees to believe. In Lydia, that story spread quickly. Soldiers took coins as pay. Officials collected them as tax. Traders used them in markets. Soon, people were not just asking, how much silver is this? They were asking, how many Lydian lion coins does it cost? We had moved from weighed metal to counted money. That sounds small. It isn't. It is like the difference between measuring out every drop of water by hand and turning on a tap. Ideas spread like coins themselves. Across the sea, city-states in Greece were watching. They saw what Lydia had done. Stamped metal, fixed weight, royal symbols. They understood it immediately. Soon, Greek cities began to mint their own coins, not in electrum, but in silver. Each city chose its own symbol. Athens chose the owl, the bird of the goddess Athena. Corinth used the winged horse, Pegasus. Aegina used a sea turtle. To outsiders, they were just pictures. To traders, they were brands. Athenian silver coins with an owl on one side have been found across the ancient Mediterranean, from Egypt to Italy. Proof that they were trusted far beyond Athens itself. Imagine being a merchant in a busy Greek port. Ships from many cities arrive. They open their chests. Out pour coins. Some with owls, some with horses, some with turtles. You learn over time which coins are well made, which cities keep their silver pure, which rulers cheat. The good coins start to travel everywhere. The bad ones are taken only at a discount. Every coin in your hand is telling you a story. Not just about metal, about the city that made it, about the government that runs it, about the stability of its laws, about the strength of its navy. A small disc of silver now carries the reputation of an entire city. We like to think branding is a modern invention, but long before logos on sneakers and phones, people were judging tiny stamped images on coins. It is easy to think coins are only about war, kings, and trade. But they also changed everyday life. Imagine a farmer bringing olives to market. Before coins, he might have had to barter or accept weighed silver, hoping the scales were fair. Now he can sell his olives for a handful of well-known coins. He goes home with money in a small pouch, not with sacks of other goods. Tomorrow, he can use those same coins to buy shoes, pay a worker, offer a gift to a temple, or pay part of his taxes. Coins had separated the act of selling from the act of buying. You no longer needed to find the perfect partner with exactly what you wanted. at exactly the right time. You could sell to one person and days later, buy from someone else entirely. That may sound obvious today, but it represents a major shift. Trade became more flexible, more anonymous, more fluid. And with that anonymity came something new. You could now do business with people you did not know and would never see again. Coins were the language that made that possible. Of course, no story about money is complete without talking about power. Coins did not only help farmers and merchants, they helped rulers. If you control the mint, the place where coins are made, you control what money is made of, how much is made, and whose face and symbol appears on it. You can require that taxes be paid in your coins. Now people must participate in your monetary system, whether they like it or not. To pay taxes, they need coins. To get coins, they must work in ways that earn coins. In many ancient empires, tax obligations in coin were a powerful tool to pull rural communities into a money-based economy. Coins also made it easier to build one of the most dangerous machines in history: a professional army. You cannot easily pay thousands of soldiers with sacks of grain, but you can pay them with coins they can spend anywhere the king's authority reaches. Marching with a well-paid army became much more feasible when your supplies included bags of coins instead of caravans of bulky goods. Where coins flowed, soldiers followed, and where soldiers marched, more coins were often required. Money and war began to feed each other. Once you control coins, you face a recurring temptation. What if you quietly change what they are made of? Instead of using pure silver, you mix in a little copper. You shrink the silver content just a bit. The coin looks the same. It carries the same symbol. It has the same number. But inside, it is weaker. Now you can mint more coins from the same amount of metal. On the surface, nothing has changed. But slowly, out in the markets, people begin to notice. Old coins feel heavier. They ring differently on stone. Merchants test them, compare them, adjust their prices. Soon, the new coins are worth less. You need more of them to buy the same loaf of bread. We saw this pattern in our first story about money. But here, with coins, the effect is sharper. The king's face is the same. The symbol is the same. The story on the coin hasn't changed, but the truth inside the metal has. Every time a ruler abuses this power, he is quietly telling his people, the symbol matters more than the substance. For a while, that might work. But over time, if people stop trusting the symbol, the money collapses. The lesson shows up again and again in history. When coins cease to be honest, societies pay the price. Today, most of the money in your life is not metal. It is numbers in a bank account, balances in an app, digits on a card terminal. But look closely. Even in a digital age, we still rely on symbols in almost the same way as people in Lydia did. A logo on a card, a bank's name on an app, a small hologram on a note, a central bank seal on a piece of paper. You don't test the metal, you don't check the paper fibers, you trust the symbol. When you tap your card, you are doing something not so different from a merchant in ancient Athens, accepting a silver owl. You are saying, I believe this symbol stands for real value. I believe others will accept it too. The first coins on Earth were born in a small kingdom from a river that glittered with mixed metal. They carried lions, owls, horses, turtles. They made it possible to trade faster, to tax more efficiently, to build armies, to grow empires. They also created new ways to cheat, new ways to control, and new ways for money to break. Coins were never just pieces of metal. They were the first mass-produced symbols of trust and power that could be held in the palm of your hand. So the next time you see a coin in your pocket, on a table, in a vending machine, take a moment. You are looking at the descendant of those strange little electrum pieces stamped in Lydia over 2,600 years ago. A tiny disc of metal that changed how we trade with strangers, measure value, and obey power. In our first story, we saw how money emerged from grain, temples, and silver. In this episode, we watched metal become money with a face. In future episodes, we will see how paper money rose and broke trust, how entire currencies died in inflation, and how modern money can disappear with just a few wrong decisions. If you want to keep following the hidden story of money, you can join us by subscribing to Hidden Money History. More chapters are coming. This is Hidden Money History. Thank you for listening.